everyone, and welcome back to another Paletteful Packs video. My name is Monique Renee, and today I have got the Young Artist box for May. Ooh, that kind of rhymed. So we are going to open this baby up, and the first thing we are going to see in here is a pack of Peerless transparent watercolors. These are a very unique kind of watercolors because all of the color is actually embedded into this paper here. Today I'm going to show you how to use these watercolors and we're going to make some art. The next thing in here is a pack of water brushes. Of course, we cannot use watercolors without some paintbrushes. We've got an adorable little paintbrush sticker, and of course a pack of Strathmore watercolor paper. So here are all of our supplies, and I'm going to whip out my little info card and look at the information. First up is these watercolors. Like I mentioned before, all of the color is right on this sheet. This sheet will not disintegrate like regular paper when you use water with it, and you can pull up the color directly from this sheet. These colors are vibrant and beautiful, and I'm so excited to teach you guys how to use them. Then we've got our Strathmore watercolor paper pad. I adore Strathmore paper. I think it's just an all-around good paper to use with watercolor. It is cold pressed. We've got 12 sheets in the size 9x12. And lastly, we have our paint brushes. These are a pack of Marabu water brushes. These are really cool because you actually unscrew the brush and fill up this little tube with water, and then you can deposit the water straight from the paintbrush, so you don't need to keep dipping your paint brush into like a cup of water. These are really great for traveling or painting on the go, and they're going to pair very nicely with these watercolors. On the back here, we have got a few different ways to use these watercolors. We can pick the paint right off of the sheet and place it onto our paper, or we can take the color and put it onto a palette and do some mixing and diluting on the palette. I will show you guys both ways of doing that, and we're going to play around with these, and it's gonna be so much fun. We've also got our prompts down here. We have got dinosaur, favorite food, unusual, and pickle. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is open up our pad of paper, and on this first page we are going to do all of our color swatching. Here we've got our watercolors. The first few pages actually has some information about the watercolors, and it's super fascinating, and I would definitely give that a read. But we're going to open to our very first color. And I personally like to keep all of these sheets in this little booklet. However, you could take them out if you wanted. And I'm going to take my first paintbrush. The pack that we got has 3 different sizes of paintbrushes. I am just using the flat one for now. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to push on the sides of the paintbrush and have it hovered over just part of the paper. And we are going to make sure that the water is flowing through. And we're going to make sure our paintbrush is nice and wet. And then we're just going to rub our paintbrush over this paper and place down the color. Isn't that magical? We're going to test out all of the colors, and don't worry, you can just go on to the next page. We're going to wet a little piece of the paper and place it down. As I do this, I am also going to write the name of the color on the side here so I know which color is which. So as you can see, we've got some just amazing, beautiful colors here. Some of my favorites are this orange and this pink. Oh, they're so pretty. Mixing these colors is pretty similar to other watercolors you may have used. So we're going to mix the ripe peach into the geranium pink. So first I'm going to place some orange on the paper. And the cool thing about this paintbrush is I can actually squeeze the water onto the page, which makes it easy to really saturate the paper with the color. So once I've got that down, I'm going to take my geranium pink onto my paintbrush, going to place it right next to it, and I'm just going to start blending the colors together. So by using this technique, we can just pick up our colors straight off the paper and do all of our mixing on our canvas. This will work with any two colors too. We can take two colors that are kind of opposite on the color wheel. So let's try this pink again, because I love this color. Place it down. And let's mix it into this lovely sky blue we've got. We can just deposit more water onto the paper by squeezing. And then we can mix right here. Another method we can use, and I actually use this method quite often, is we can take a paint palette. If you don't have a paint palette, you can use like a plastic cover of some kind, or even like the back of our wrapper. Basically anything that's not going to absorb the watercolor. But I'm going to take my palette, and I'm going to again deposit the color onto my paintbrush, and instead I'm going to place it in that palette and make sure I squeeze some water. I'm just going to take it and place it in my palette. Then I can take another color. For example, I'll just pick up the yellow and place it. And now I have these colors in my palette, so I can dilute them if I want to. I can take just a little bit and mix them together on my palette and then place them onto my canvas and basically use them like, you know, you would regular watercolors. I like to do this when I'm trying to mix a color that I don't specifically have right off the bat. So if I wanted to mix like skin tones, or if I wanted to really dilute one of these colors, I would place it in my palette and then do all my mixing there. So what I would like you to do is spend some time just kind of playing with the colors. Practice putting them onto a palette, practice taking them directly from the paper, and kind of just familiarize yourself with them. And kind of get to know what color combinations you like too. As you can see, these colors blend just so beautifully together, so you should really take some time and just kind of play around. Also, I think I just accidentally painted an octopus. Anyway, take some time, play around, maybe paint a little octopus. You know, I'm gonna give him little eyes too. And just get to know these paints a little bit. Okay, so once you feel like you're ready to move on, we're going to flip to the next page, and we're actually going to tear this page out. Carefully remove it from the glue that's keeping it in the book. And we're actually going to cut this in half. We are going to be working with a smaller size today because, as you can see, the paintbrushes that we have are pretty small. It would be a task and a half to try to wet down this whole sheet with just this tiny paintbrush. So we're going to work smaller. And the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to wet this entire piece of paper. So press down on that paintbrush to get some water flowing, and we're just going to kind of dampen the whole thing. We are going to use a couple wet on wet techniques to get a really beautiful gradient, because what we are going to do is paint a little ocean scene. These colors have really got me thinking of summer and going to the beach. So I want to paint that today. Your paper will start to bend, but don't worry, it'll go back down to a more flat shape as it dries. So once your paper is sufficiently wet, we're going to take our brilliant yellow. This is going to be our first color. And we are actually going to paint a circle shape part way up. And we're going to kind of feather that color outward. And as it goes outward, we are going to add our next color, which is going to be geranium pink. And we're going to place that into it. and start kind of blending them together, mixing them together. You can always place down more water where you need it to. And we're going to extend this pink to about there. And now we're going to take our Wisteria Violet, and we're going to place it on the edges. I am using a lot of water here. Do not be afraid to really get that water going. We are now going to take our sky blue and place it here. Our deep blue is going to go here. And that looks incredibly messy, but we're going to leave that to dry and we're going to add layers on top to make it come together a little bit better. Okay, once it's dried, we can move on to the next step. What we're going to do is essentially paint a horizontal line right about here, and we're going to paint in some kind of jaggedy triangle shapes, and those are going to be some mountains. So I'm going to take my dark blue and I'm going to do my best to draw a straight-ish line. Don't worry if it's not perfect, it's not gonna be. And then from there, I'm kind of just going to paint in these like triangle, mountainy, jaggedy shapes. We are going to start painting the water to make it actually look a little bit more like water. So I'm going to take my sky blue and I'm just going to start painting lines. Kind of jaggedy little horizontal lines that go across the water's surface. And I'm going to have them cross into this pink a little bit, but not completely. I might take a clean brush and feather these out a little bit. And there's really not a whole bunch of rhyme or reason to this. We're essentially just painting ripples in the water, and they are unpredictable and don't really follow any kind of order, so just start making some lines and that will be good. Once we're getting closer to this pink middle, we're going to grab our pink and do the same thing. And the reason why we added pink to this water is because we wanted to have the sunset kind of making a reflection on the water and reflecting some of those amazing, beautiful sunset colors. So we're going to have the pink kind of bleed into the blue just a little bit. For an extra little pop of drama, we are going to take our brilliant yellow color and apply it just a little bit in some places, right in the middle there. We don't want this a whole lot, and we want to be careful not to blend it into the blue too much because then we'll start getting a green color. We don't quite want that. But just a little bit of yellow kind of just makes a nice pop. Now, as we move lower down on the page, we are going to start incorporating some of these darker colors and doing the same thing where I'm just laying down the color onto the paper and then adding a little bit of water to kind of feather it out. I will also keep adding this sky blue in here too for some color variation, make it look a little bit more interesting. I'm also going to add some of the deep blue on the sides here as well. This whole whole process is not really planned out. So if there's something you want to try that I'm not doing, you can absolutely try it on your own and see if you like it. And then when we move down a little bit further, I'll also start adding this violet color that we have. And then I'll go back to the deep blue and add more of that. I'm really just going back and forth, adding colors and layers where I think they will look nice. All right, and when I get to this point, I'm going to move on to the sky because now the sky is looking a little bit rough. The part that looks especially rough for me is this area where the purple meets the pink. It didn't quite blend the way I wanted it to, but that's okay because I'm just going to go back in and add another layer and I will try again. I'm going to wet my paper again, and this time I'm going to start with the violet. I'm just going to start dropping it in. I'm going to add the pink, and this time I'm going to be a little bit more careful about mixing them so they look a little better. Again, if your paper isn't quite wet enough, you can always add more water to make the mixing process just a little easier. And I'm going to continue this process all the way around. I am even going to pull some of this color in closer toward this yellow to make more of an orange because I think the yellow is just a little bit too yellow. And now I'm going to let that dry. The last step I'm going to do is darken these mountains because as I add in more color, they by comparison look a little light. So I'm just going to go over them again with that deep blue. And with that, our little painting of a sunset is done. You'll notice that I have all of these places in the watercolor where the water kind of sat and bloomed outwards. I personally really like those. I think they add an interesting texture and I just think they look cool. So if you have lots of these in your painting too, don't worry. That is going to be it for me, guys, so I really hope you enjoyed painting this along with me. I can't wait to see what other pieces of art you make with these watercolors. Please be sure to tag us on social medias using our hashtags, hashtag Paletteful Packs and hashtag Paletteful Prompts. And if you have not already joined the Paletteful Packs family, you can do so by checking out our link in the description below. I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your month, and until next time, bye guys!